All right, in this next video, we're going to go through important frequencies for some important instruments that often come up in electronic music. And there's a few key ones that I want to point out. And just start by trying to memorize these, write them down, have this next to you when you're mixing, save it as your desktop, whatever it is. But you'll find that as soon as you use it and it works, it's easy to remember. So a couple of specific ones I really want to point out. The easiest and the first two to learn is the 50 hertz and 5 kilohertz. So 50 hertz is great for anything that you want to sound strong on the sub frequencies. So it's perfect for a kick drum. It's great for those smooth sub bass lines, and even good for a tom too. It's a really magic frequency for kick drums. It's actually a G note. So I end up writing a lot of music around G minor, whatever, Dorian. We can go F sharp, A, B flat, and we'll see a lot of other artists do the same. But just around that pocket, okay? So 10 hertz up and below sounds really good for your kick drum, and then the sub of your whole song sounds really strong. The next one was 5 kilohertz. So this is called the magic frequency or presence. Essentially, it's important for all of your higher frequencies, or your leads, your vocals, not so much drums, but essentially what it does is it adds presence, or it brings it right to the front of the mix. It makes it sound more exciting, like the attack on the kick is even cutting through a bit more. You can hear the hands of people playing, whether it's the piano or the bass. We can hear the attack on the piano, and it brightens up our leads. So it's called 5 kilohertz presence frequency. And yeah, it's a bit of a magical frequency. It usually has a really good effect of just making the vocal sound a little bit more open, like a better recording. Or if we take it away, we can take, for example, maybe a clap that's a little bit too dominating in the mix and just put it behind the vocal, for example. So let's experiment with them. We'll start with the 5 kilohertz, and what we will do is we'll even do a little boost on the kick, because it does help clarity. It basically just helps the knock, or that high frequency of the kick, kind of cut through a little bit better. So, and funnily enough, you can see Ableton's got their shelf sitting right on 5 hertz. I wonder why. So something like that's enough, and maybe I can refine the cue a little bit more, so I'm not just boosting all those higher frequencies and high mids. But something like that should be enough to hopefully just get the kick cutting through a little bit more. Let's have a listen. Let's tighten up the low end as well. Even though my kick is a really subby kick, I'm keen to roll it off from 30. It's a technique seen a lot in a lot of common production. Even though we can hear down to 20, rolling this off allows us to kind of hear that low end or hear that kick a little bit better. So let's see if that's making a difference now. And I might just boost this up. And I haven't actually balanced this, so just to help us hear it, let's just solo the kick. Hear how the transient, and it also becomes a bit tighter. Yeah, that's a result of probably transient knock there and tightness there. So that's it on the kick drum, which is really cool. Let's do it on the vocal, where it really shines through. So here we go. I might get it on a bit which hopefully the filter's not opening. So yeah, this really brings that vocal to the front of the mix. And like always, we can't tell until we're in context. So let's have a go. So instead of changing the volume, we're changing just the volume of those frequencies and it's doing the job for us. Obviously, we can still tighten up the low end and even take away some of those mids just a little bit, again, making it sound a little higher. So that's 5 kilohertz. 50 hertz will sound great on the kick drum as well. And you can see this track is in G, so we could even just do something like that. And that would be enough to really get the kick drum nice and tight and boomy. But the trick is with this one, instead of doing that, we've actually got a big sub going on somewhere down here. So instead of, if that sub wasn't there, I would be doing a boost like that. But because the sub's there, I don't need to do that. So these just need to gel well together. And they're sounding pretty good. So, this kick is really just for the knock and the sound of it, the character, the high end, the timbre. And this is for the low end. So I don't need that fluff or that mud. Can keep it nice and tight like that, even taking away some of 50 hertz, because I know this has got it there. So if you wanted to, maybe you can boost here, but I think that's looking nice and strong. I would actually just roll it off again at 30. All right, and that's 50 hertz on the kick drum. I mean, we didn't have to actually do anything to it because it was hitting at 50 hertz. But I guess it's more of a lesson on actually riding around that frequency and consciously making sure that your sub's fundamental note, the tonic of the track is going to be around there. And then you'll have a really nice, strong sub frequency range. So the other ones to point out are that, again, just going back to the ranges. So about 3K to 8K is great for a vocal. You can see that it's adding more clarity. There's presence here. There's brightness to the vocals. So you can even do a high shelf above about 3K if you want. And get a really nice kind of breath added to the track. Again, it just makes the vocals sound more open with that air frequency range built in. A little bit of sizzle right up in the high end, a bit of classic trick for the vocals. So that's pretty much 3 to 8 is for that presence, and then we added a little bit of the air frequency range for breathier vocals. And that sounded really good. 10 kilohertz is what makes your drums magic. Okay, so if we just listen to the whole mix, put something in the master channel and take away 10 hertz, we will hear usually the drums become dull. Let's see. So yeah, 10 kilohertz, 12, anywhere from 8 to 15 is really all about those really high frequencies. It's the high frequency range. So there's your drums. There's those exciting frequencies of your leads or effects and vocals in there. You can hear the vocal become duller as well when I did that. So yeah, think about 10 kilohertz for drums. And then there's a sweet spot just here from about 400 to about 2000. And that is great for bass lines. So whether it's boosting or subtracting, depending on the bass line, depending on how it's playing, we'll either add some fullness and warmth. It'll add some clarity or punch. It'll even make it more plucky up in these higher frequency ranges, so the attack and the transient will cut through more. And essentially as well, we did skip over the actual bass frequency range, so 60 to 250 around here, and that is really where the bass shines. So just making sure that that space is pretty much for the bass line, and then in these mid area, we're managing the relationship between the important frequencies that the bass line needs and maybe some other important instruments there, like a piano, snare, some of the lower frequencies of the vocal. And again, that's why I took some of those frequencies away from the vocal, because I don't always need those for the vocal. I mean, for this one, for the female, and this is where the exciting part of the vocal is. So taking that away gives me more space for the bass line and other instruments, maybe like a piano that needs it. So really kind of bringing in together the frequency masking, what we learned at the start there. So my advice is to go away and try and just pick frequencies and pick notes, apply it, and see if it works. And if it works, I reckon you got a good chance of remembering it. So obviously don't try and learn them all at once. Just do maybe 3 each session, each time you sit down to mix the track. And yeah, I'll see you next time.